Hello everyone, Nikhil this side from Coding Beam. So in this video we are going to discuss about the JavaScript variables and the data types. So what are the JavaScript variables? JavaScript variables are used to store the data in the memory which later on we can update its value, and there should always be a unique name for the variables. And why do we need them? To store the temporary data in the memory which will be deleted after the execution of the program, and to perform various calculations and some operations, and sometimes to store the data in the database. So that's why we need the variables. But how can we declare them? So to declare the variable, there is a reserved keyword which is a var, and then the variable name will be there, and then 123 equals to value. So the var, let or const is the keyword to declare the variables in the JavaScript, and let and const are introduced in the ES6 as the new definition to create the variables. So now my var is the variable name, 123 is the value of my var. So this is how we can declare the variables. So now let us see in the Visual Studio Code via the example. So now we are in the Visual Studio Code. Now we will declare a variable here, like if we will declare it with the var, as it is a reserved keyword, and it will be the now the variable name like the my var, and it is equals to 123. Now we have declared a variable with var keyword. Now this is the keyword here, this is the variable name, and this is the value. If I will now use the console.log to print the value in the console, now it will be the my var. If I will now save, now you will see 123 in the console as expected. Now we have shown in the PPT like we can change the value of it also. Like if we have to change it, we have to use my var and assign it to a new value like 456. If I will now save, now you will see, if I will now console.log and then my var, and then you will see the console.log window will show 456, which is the updated value of my var. So 456 is there in the console.log. So this is how can we declare the variables, and we can update their values in the JavaScript. And we can also declare the variables with let and the const, as they are defined in the new ES6. So if I will declare a variable with let, and it will be like the variable like val, and it will be equals to the 123, and then if I will now change value, the val equals to 456 or 345. If I will now console.log again, the val, now it will show me. I will now comment this code here before rendering this. So if I will now run this, now the 345 will be in the console because we have declared the variable with 123 and we have updated the value with val equals to 345. So we are updating the value. But if we will use the const, we cannot update the value because it is a constant. So we cannot update their value in the const. So if I will declare with the const, so it will be the const val, and it will be equals to 123. If I will now console.log, then it will show me in the, actually the v is missing, so it will show me in the console window. But if I will try to give a new value to this val, then it will give us an error like 345. Then it will give us an error if I will console.log like val. So then it will give error like the type error, assignment to a constant variable, because the val is now the constant because it is declared with the const. So const value never changes or updates. So these are how we can declare the variables in the JavaScript. So now we will move on to different data types. So about the data types, the JavaScript provides the multiple data types to hold different type of values, and it includes the data types like the string, the boolean, and the number in case of int. And the JavaScript is a loosely and dynamically typed language, so we do not require to specify the type of a variable in JavaScript. So now there are two types of data types. There are the primitive types, and the primitive types, they are the lowest level of data value. So they contain the string, number, boolean, null, undefined, and the big int. and there are the non-primitive data types, and they are the structural data types, and the structural data types contain some kind of structure with a primitive data. So it contains the object, the date, the arrays. So these are about the data types. So defining the data type, so we have to define the primitive data type now. So now there is a keyword, it is a let, and the variable name it is equals to a. Then now this is the one. So now we are declaring a number here. If we are declaring it with a number, numerical digit, so it is a number. And if we are declaring a very big number, then it is called as a big int. So now there is a big int. And if we are declaring it within a quotes like the double quotes or a backtick sign, so then it will be a string. And if we are giving a new value like a true or false, then it contains a boolean, because boolean value contains a true or false. And there is a null also, because if we are actually, the null denotes a absence of a value, so the null will be the absence of a value in the JavaScript. And if we are defining with the undefined, so the undefined is a default value of a variable. Like if we declare a variable and we do not assign a value to it, so then it will be the undefined. So a variable in JavaScript can be assigned to any type of value. So then if we define a non-primitive types, so then there will be the object, like the a is now an object, the first name is equals to John, the last name equal to switch, and then they have a key value pair, then it is object. And there is a new date variable, like the date is now the primitive data type in the JavaScript, and we define the date and then we give it a string inside it, then it will be a date. And there is an array, like if we have to declare an array, then it will be a non-primitive data type and it will be the structural data type. So the non-primitive data types contains some kind of structure with the primitive data, like the first name equals to now John, the last name equals to Swith, and the array equals to 1 2 3 4 5, and it contains a multiple storage. So this is how can we define the non-primitive and the primitive data types in the JavaScript. So now we will move on to the Visual Studio Code to see the example. And now we are in the Visual Studio Code. Now we will define a variable with the data type. So now if we will define it with the var, it will be equals to the value, then it is equals to the 1. Then if I will now console.log the number, the val, and if I will now save, then it is equals to 1. So if I have to see the type of the variable, like the which type of variable it is, so we have to use again the console.log, then it will be a type of, it will be equals to type of, and then it contains the, then we have to give the variable name, and it will be equals to the value. So the value, so if I will now console.log, now we will see the number here, because the type of give us the value, like the number is there, the 1 equals to the number, so it is the number. And if I will now change the variable, like if I will now give it a string like value equals to the 1 2 3, or in the string like the name, then if I will now save and console.log, if I will now comment this out, and then because it will not mismatch here, I will now comment this. Now we will console.log the val. Now we will see the my name in the console window, because we are declaring a variable with the 1 and we are giving it a new value. So now it is a string value as we have defined in within the quotes. So this is the string value. So if we have to console.log the type of this, then again we have to use type of, and then the val, which is the variable name. If I will now console.log, now we will see it is a string. So these are the string. So now if we will go ahead, and if now we will give a new value, like now if we have to give a boolean value, so we have to provide val equals to true. So now true or false, they are the boolean values. So if I will give it a true, then if I will console.log the val and the type of the val, and if I will now console.log, now we will see the true and the type of is the boolean. So if I will now again console.log the new variables, like if I will now comment this out, and I will increase the size a little bit, And now if we give a new value, like here is an undefined keyword also. If we will define a variable like where value equals to 1 and val my name equals to this, if I will now define a new one like val where, and it will be my where, and if we will leave it undefined, then if I will now console.log my where, then it will be the undefined in the console window. And if I will now console.log the type of and the my where, then also it will give us the undefined because it is a type of the undefined. And now if we will move on to the null, and if I will comment this out, where my where, and it will be equals to now the null. Then if I will now console.log the my where, then it will give us the null in the console window because we have declared it with the null. And then if I will now console.log the type of the my where, then it will give us the object because null is an object in the JavaScript, so it will give us the object. If I will now save, then it is giving us the object. So these are about the primitive types. So now we will move on to the non-primitive data types. So if I will now declare a new object, let person object name equals to the object. Now it is the empty object, and the objects can contain multiple variables inside it as the key value pairs. So the first name will be like the John, and last name will be the Smith, and the age will be like 29. And if we have to access these values, we have to again use the console.log, and then object name, and then you will see the object will be there in the console window. Now the first name is there, the last name is there, and the age is there. And if we have to access like only the first name, so then we have to use the dot notation here, person dot first name. So then it will give us the object there, like the John is the first name. And now if now we will move on to the date, can declare a new date with the where new date, where date equals to new date, and then inside it we can give a new date in the string format like the 15 September 2021. If I will now save, now you will see, if I will now console.log the date, then you will see the new date will be there, the Wednesday 15 September and the 2021, it is a new date. So if I will now declare a new one with the array, so if we will declare an array where again where array equals to array, and it contains in this format. So this is a syntax, and the array can have the multiple values of the same data types inside it, like the numbers like the 1 2 3 4 5. And if we have to show the array in the console, we have to use again the console.log and the array, then it will give us the array like they have the 5 elements like the 1 2 3 4 5. So these are the 0 1 2 3 4. So thank you guys for watching the video, and I hope you will like the video. And guys, please subscribe to our channel if you are new.